Hi, this video will be covering chapter 16 of improving vocabulary skills. Um, I encourage you to open up your book and follow along here so that you can kill two birds with one stone. Let me just go ahead and read through these words here, and we'll take a guess as the parts of speech. Our first one here is condone, then contemplate. That's an 8 sound at the end. Feasible, able is a clue. Feign, fiscal, furtive, gape, pathetic, the ick is a clue, precedent, and punitive. So our first word here is condone, and this one is a verb. I cannot condone Elaine's smoking in public. It threatens other people's health. Teachers may overlook it when you're 3 minutes late, but they're not going to condone your walking into class half an hour late. So what it means is to excuse. It means something a little bit more than that. To condone something is not just to excuse it, but it is also to sort of imply that it's okay. That you accept, not just that you accept it, but you're in some ways supporting it and allowing it to go on. So in both of these cases, condone is used in a negative one, meaning in the first one, I cannot condone Elaine smoking in public, meaning that I cannot support her smoking in public because it's a negative thing. It hurts other people. And the second one, the professor or the teacher is not condoning your tardiness, meaning not saying it's okay. There are some professors who do condone tardiness, meaning they think it's not a big deal if you come in late. And in a sense, by condoning it, they're sort of saying that it's okay and encouraging it to continue. Okay, so condone not just to excuse, but it means to basically to say something is okay to continue doing. Our next word here is contemplate, and this one ends in that 8 sound, so this is a verb. Whenever Anne's husband drank too much, she would contemplate separation, but then she would feel guilty for thinking about leaving a sick man. Because Ben hadn't studied for the test, he contemplated cheating. He quickly realized, however, that the eagle-eyed teacher would spot him. What contemplate means is to consider. By consider, what we mean is to think about doing something. So in both of these cases, we're talking about thinking about doing some action, and it's normally when you're contemplating something, it's normally something that you're thinking about that you have not just positive thoughts about, or you can see that there's maybe a goodness to doing it, but there's also a badness to it. So in the first one, it's about contemplating separation. So getting separated from your husband would, maybe there's some good things in it, but obviously it's a huge thing and it'll be a painful one. In the second example, he's contemplating cheating. So the good thing is that maybe he'll do well on the test, but the bad thing is, well, one, it's cheating, but also that he might get caught. One of the ways you may hear this word used often is, if people are contemplating suicide, meaning they're thinking about killing themselves. You can obviously see that that's a very negative, that is thinking about something that's very negative. Our next word here is feasible, and this one is an adjective. It isn't feasible for me, and sorry, the clue there is the IBLE, the IBLE. It isn't feasible for me to work full-time and keep the house clean unless someone helps me with the cleaning chores. Maya told her supervisor it just isn't feasible for this staff to do the work of the 2 people who were fired. You need to hire more people. So what it means is possible. And if we look at it, we also see that it's often followed, actually in both of these sentences, it is followed by the preposition for. So when we say feasible, to say, you'll notice that in both of these sentences, feasible is used in a negative, saying it isn't feasible, or meaning it isn't possible. I'd like to say that that's probably a more common usage of it, is saying something isn't feasible, meaning that it's not possible. Feasible means it's not possible because it's not a realistic expectation, meaning, like in the first example, it's saying it isn't feasible for me to work full time and also clean the house, meaning it's just not realistic that I will be able to do that much work. The second example is similar in that way, to say that a staff can do their own job in addition to the jobs of the two other people who were fired. Our next word here is feign, and this one is a verb. Since I had heard about my surprise party, I had to feign shock when everyone yelled, "Surprise!" You can feign a head cold by pretending you're too stuffed up to pronounce L, N, or M. Try it by saying, "I have a cold in my id by doze." I had a code id by doze. Yeah, I guess that does sound like you are stuffed up. So feign means something. In the sense of fake, we don't, well, we do mean not real, but in this case, to fake something as a verb, fake as an adjective means something that's not authentic, that's not real. But fake as a verb and feign as a verb means to pretend something that's not true. So in the first example, if you feign shock, meaning that you're pretending like you're surprised to deceive people. In the second one, you're faking that you have a cold for whatever reason. But feign is often used with the word surprise. Someone might say, "I feigned surprise," which means that they acted like they were surprised, but they really weren't. And oftentimes that's for the benefit of the person who is trying to surprise you. Our next word here is fiscal, and this one is an adjective. The gift shop closed because of fiscal problems. It simply didn't make enough money to cover its expenses. Some states have passed laws allowing child support payments to be taken directly from the paychecks of divorced parents who ignore their fiscal responsibilities to their children. So what is financial. So when we talk about fiscal problems, we're talking about money problems. Yep, problems related to not having enough money. You'll often hear fiscal used with these two words: fiscal problems, meaning money problems, and fiscal responsibility, which means being careful about how you spend your money, taking care to be careful about the way that you spend your money. So our next word here is furtive, and this is an adjective. At the football game, a guard in the stands noticed the furtive movement of a thief's hands towards a spectator's pocket. According to experts, teenagers who are furtive about where they're going and with whom may be involved with drugs. So furtive means sneaky. It can also be like secretive. Furtive, when you describe something or someone as furtive, it means that they're doing something in a way that makes it look like they're trying to hide something, or they're not trying to be noticed. Oftentimes, furtive is used for furtive glances, which means like, for example, if you were taking a test, and if you made furtive glances at another student's test, it would mean you're trying to be sneaky about copying the answers of that other student. In this first example, it's saying about at the football game, the guard noticed the furtive movement of the thief's hands. It means that the thief moved his hand in a way that wasn't normal, that looked suspicious. So, being furtive means you're being sneaky, but it's sort of not a well hidden sneakiness. It means you look like you're trying to hide something. So you're not really doing that good of a job of hiding it if you look like you're trying to hide it. Our next word here is gape, and this one is a verb. Everyone stopped to gape at the odd-looking sculpture in front of the library. Because drivers slowed down to gape at an accident in the southbound lanes, northbound traffic was backed up for miles. It means to stare at. And the reason I laughed at the beginning was looking at those cows that are gaping. I don't know if you've ever encountered cows or been with cows, but there are some animals that will just gape at you, just stare at you with like wide eyes. Um, Gape is often used for staring at something because of shock or amazement. So in the first example, they're gaping at this sculpture, this piece of art that looks very strange. So in that case, you're just staring at something because it's very odd. Um, in the second one, a lot of people gape at accidents, because it's sort of fascinating, and it really draws your attention. One of the words, that I think about when someone is gaping is, we have the expression of his jaw dropped, which means like when you see something that like really amazes you and shocks you, it's like your jaw goes to the floor. And I think of gaping often associated with that is that you're just staring at something without even really thinking about how, if it's a person, how that person is going to view you staring at them. You're not even really aware of what's going on around you or how you may be making the person feel uncomfortable. Our next word here is pathetic, and this one is an adjective. That plumber's work was pathetic. Not only does the faucet still drip, but now the pipe is leaking. Um, Healthcare in some areas of the world is pathetic. People are dying of diseases that are easily treatable with modern medicine. So what means is miserable, but it has a little bit different meaning than that. Miserable often means like that you feel really bad or you feel really sick. But pathetic is also closer to the meaning of horrible in sort of a sad way. If we look at the word pathetic, it has the word path or pathy in it, and we're going to have some other words with this word part in it. And that comes from the Greek word pathos, which means feeling. So when we talk about pathetic, we're saying that something is miserable or horrible and sad. Um, um, so let's look at the first example. It's saying that the plumber's work was pathetic. What that means is that he did such a bad job that it's just sad that he's even a plumber. That he's so bad that it's almost embarrassing that this is his job. I mean, it's just so bad you can't believe it. So that's one meaning. And the second one, it's saying about healthcare is so pathetic. It's like, in some parts of the world, the healthcare is just so bad and so awful that even simple things that anywhere else in the world would not kill someone end up killing the person. So again, it's in the first example, it's almost, we would say it's almost laughably bad. But in the second example, it's not really funny. It's just so sad that people are dying because the healthcare is so bad. Our next word here is precedent, and this is a noun. To set a precedent, the teacher gave the student who stole the exam an F for the entire course. Others will think twice before they do the same, he explained. When Jean's employer gave her 3 months off after her baby was born, a precedent was set for anyone else in the company who became a parent. So what a precedent is a model, but that's not by itself is not a really good definition. We need to think of it in a broader way than that. Precedent it starts off with this. Uh, it, it, it Precedent is related to the verb precede, and precede means to come before, for something to come before. So a precedent is an example or a model of something that is the first example of its kind, and that after that example is given, everybody else will follow that example. So, for example, in the first one where it says the teacher gives one student an F, that first example lets everybody else know that if they steal an exam, that same thing is going to happen to them. So it's a model. It's a model of, in that case, of the consequences of a situation, and that in the future, the professor or the teacher will be able to refer back to that example to be like, well, I warned you. If you steal the exam, this is what's going to happen. In the second example, this is a different type of precedent, more of a positive one, where this woman got 3 months off after having her baby. So this was the first example of what happens if you have a baby, so that anybody else who had a baby can look back, can go back to that example and say, well, she got 3 months off. I need to get 3 months off too. Okay, so it's a model. It's a model in the sense of it's a model for future behavior based on one specific example. All right, our last word here is punitive, and this one is an adjective. Judge Starn is especially punitive with drunken drivers, giving every one of them a jail term. Many parents find that reward is a better basis for teaching than punitive action is. Punitive means punishing. Um, so punishment can take a lot of forms. In some forms, like in the first example, the punitive action is putting the person in jail. Another form of punitive action would be, making someone pay a fine, or having their driver's license suspended. But basically, when we say that something is punitive, we mean that it's a punishment, so that the person who has to face the punitive action, that it's a negative experience for them, that it's a bad experience for them. In the second example, it talks about teaching behavior. It's saying rewarding, meaning rewarding children for their good behavior, actually is a better way of teaching them than punishing them for their bad behavior. Okay, but again, punitive actions means a kind of punishment. Normally, well, no, always, because you've done something wrong. The punitive action is what comes after the wrong thing. All right, so that's it. That was a quick one. Go ahead and finish off the exercises and come to class, and we'll talk about the words. Take care. Bye.